Hi there and welcome back to the channel and to my garage. This video will be about my journey how I will transform this awesome motorcycle into my dream adventure machine. If you have been watching my earlier videos, you might be wondering where Keijo, my old 790 Adventure R is. Well, basically now, after 4 years and more than 50,000 kilometers together, I traded it in for this one. Maybe as a further background, when I started my adventure riding career, I had a 1200 BMW GSA, and after a couple of years I found it too big and bulky for the kind of riding I wanted to do. And back then, so roughly 4 years ago, I went and test drove this one, or actually the Husqvarna version of it, and it felt really good, but also it felt at the same time like a too big leap from the big GS to this kind of a smaller machine. So that's part of the reason I ended up to the 790 Adventure R, which turned out to be the best motorcycle until then. But ever since I test rode the Husqvarna, I've been wondering if I could live with this kind of bike, because I do some longer trips and there's always some highway miles included as well. But then in the autumn I bought that 690 Adventure R, which is basically the predecessor of this one. Then I found out immediately that I liked more the 640 both on and off-road than the 790. And that's when I came to the conclusion that now is the time to go for this one. Of course, these are never ready directly from the factory. This is now in bone stock condition, excluding these heated grips which the dealer installed. Otherwise I need to make quite many modifications to turn it into my dream adventure machine. I have ordered most of the parts already and received also some. For example, the fairing kit here from Red Garage, which will give me some wind protection and also possibility to mount decent GPS system there. And it will also transform the looks of this bike to how I think it should be directly from the factory. And this won't be any how-to video, but the journey how I will transform this motorcycle into my dream adventure machine. Most likely ASMR type content, but let's see. But anyway, I think this will be interesting, so welcome along. Alright, so let's start the journey by installing this auxiliary tank by Red Garage. Alright, so we are ready with the installation of this auxiliary tank, and it feels super sturdy. Excellent. I think I forgot to mention one thing in the beginning of this video, which I think is pretty obvious, but This is a brand new bike. There's 0 kilometers on the odometer. So it's really nice to work on this bike because everything is straight from the factory and there's no dirt, no rust, no nothing anywhere. Now let's move on to remove this original stuff here from the front and start to install this fairing kit from Raid Garage. Alright, the installation is ready and I'm super happy with the results and also with the quality of this fairing kit. Just take a look at this. Now I have improved lights and also improved wind protection. Check out these lights. Quite different than the original ones. Alright, then next ones maybe handguards or the rear rack. Let me think about it. Okay, so I decided to continue the build by installing these Barkbuster handguards here. These are actually from Keijo, my old 790, but they should fit here perfectly. The handguards are now installed and they fit perfectly to the bike. Now let's continue by installing this luggage rack. I bought this from this company 3D Moto. I quite like this design. It has these grab handles which you can use to pull the bike from mud, for example. So installation is quite straightforward. We only need to drill 4 holes here in the fairings. There should be some markings down there and then bolt this on. Alright, so now we have the luggage rack mounted and it feels super high quality. I also have this extension plate for it, which I will install a bit later, because I received lots of new parts. For example, this exhaust here, so I need to disassemble everything to mount that. But let's continue the build by finalizing this bottom part. Let's, for example, install these rally foot pegs, which I took from the 790, they should fit there perfectly. Let's put the extension plate here and the AXP skid plate. Let's continue. Okay, so the rally foot pegs from the 790 fit perfectly here. Let's continue by replacing this heel guard with this one, which has also these mounting points for the luggage system. Now the bottom part is ready. Everything is mounted and looking good. Let's move on to the top. So next I'm going to install this handlebar raiser kit because the handlebars feel a bit too low for me. I'm 191 centimeters tall, so feels a bit low. And at the same time, let's change these mirrors to these ones. Let's start the work by removing this fairing. Alright, then it's time to replace this stock exhaust with this one from Arrow. Let's start by removing all the fairings here and then just replace the muffler. Should be quite simple. The Arrow exhaust is now installed and it looks amazing. Now I will put the bike back together and then go for a short test ride to see that everything is working. At the same time we will then hear how this sounds like. Well, alright, this exhaust was a huge difference to the original one. I mean, the sound was completely different than earlier. I don't know yet if it's too loud or not, but we will see that later. But alright, I have now received the final parts for this build, namely this DMD2 navigation tablet from Torque Racing, then the luggage system from Moskomoto, and this box from Kuber. This is installed between the oxygen sensor and the ECU of this bike, because from factory these run extremely lean, especially when you modify the intake and exhaust. So this should help with that issue. But yeah, let's continue the build. Let's first install this, then all the fairings back, and then continue with the navigation and luggage system. Alright, the DMD2 navigation tab installation is now complete. Here's the remote controller and check it out. Some zooming. This is absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to get on the trails with this one. Alright, but let's put the front fairing back on and then continue with the luggage system. Alright, the Moscow Moto Reckless 80 luggage system is now installed and it fits just perfectly this bike. And just look at the quality of these bags. Amazing. And I love the fact that you don't need to put any luggage racks to the bike, so it remains this kind of sleek and simple like this 690 is from the factory. And of course you save weight at the same time. And with the Noblin system, the installation is also piece of cake. So basically you just slide this in and then tie these straps to the heel guards and you're good to go. And also they have thought about the fueling of this bike. There is this entrance to the fuel cap. So now with all these modifications and accessories, my dream adventure machine build is complete. I will now go for a short test ride to see that everything is still working. But man, is it beautiful. Welcome to Kiikala Forest. This is actually not my first ride. I have been riding already for more than 2,000 kilometers with this beast and oh my god, I absolutely love this machine.
It's just perfect in every way. There's so much power. The standing position is perfect. The sitting position is perfect. And even the seat feels comfortable. But yeah, this is the first time I'm testing the full adventure setup. So I have the Moscow moto luggage with me and I stuffed those with some clothes and so on. So let's see how those work. They feel extremely good and there's definitely enough space in this rackless 80 for any kind of adventure. Now let's just enjoy these forest roads for a while and then have a lunch break somewhere, and I'll show you a bit more how this looks here in the wild. Alright, so this is the place where I wanted to come for lunch. So let's stop here and enjoy this view for a while. Of course this lean-to is not in the best of condition, but I really like this view. Here is how it looks in the forest, ready for any kind of adventures. The only update I have done to it since the garage is that I installed this Enduro R tank bag. This is the Sandstorm 4M. And it's the perfect size because I don't notice it at all while I'm riding, and also it doesn't interfere with this tank cap for the auxiliary tank. I'm also really loving this fairing kit from Raid Garage. First of all, it looks absolutely amazing, and second thing is that it guides only clear air to my helmet, so that's quite wonderful. And then this navigation tablet from DMD. You cannot even begin to compare this one to the old Garmin which I had. It's absolutely amazing, and with this controller it's super easy to find trails and check if they lead anywhere or are they dead ends. Then of course this Moscow Moto rackless luggage. This is now the first time it's on, fits like a glove. Not much else to say yet about this one, but feels quite good. And then lastly this exhaust. Of course it's a lot louder than the 790 was, but with the earplugs it's okay, and of course the grunt in the exhaust noise also gives the feeling of power. But the main thing, it doesn't get so hot as the original one. But talking about the exhaust, let me show how it sounds at the moment. So that's it for this video. This KTM is now perfect and fully ready for all the adventures of this season. Now I will prepare the lunch here and enjoy this view for a while before heading back home. So stay tuned and see you in the next one. Bye bye.